So let's get started with what I've got for today, because I feel like it's a need. I feel like it's kind of urgent. So I'm going to start with prayer, like I try to do always. And so if you'll join me in that, then we'll get going. Father, I thank you for the opportunity to minister. I ask you that you would put me and everyone watching in a place to receive. I ask you for growth for all of us, for maturity and spiritual growth, and that you would help us all to take the information that you send through me and to apply it to ourselves. To see where it needs to fit and where it needs to be applied in our own lives. And I just ask you to help us all to be better for this. And I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. So I got to get my notes. And I decided to do this outside today. Got a new microphone, so I don't have to be tied quite so close to the camera. And you know, we've got some backdrops and stuff, but man, it's so pretty right out here. So I just decided, why not? Let's get out here and do something a little different. Y'all let us know if you like it or not. Where I want to start today, and this is the core of everything I want to say, and I'm going to come back to it at the end. But where I want to start is in 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. And this one I'm reading out of the New King James Version. Normally I go with the New Living Translation, but sometimes I just like the way it reads better in a different translation, certain verse or something like that. So I'm going with the New King James and this one, and then I'll flip back. But I want to start here. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? Yeah, I'm gonna talk about how we present ourselves and how we deal with each other and everyone. So So I want everybody to take a minute and just focus on you. What I have to say is not so that you can look at other people and say, "Oh, well, yeah, this person does that or that person does that." That's not what this is about, and that's not what you should be looking for here. The whole purpose of what I do, of me preaching, number one, most of what I preach happens because it applies directly to me, and it's the Spirit showing me where I need work. But we're all human beings. None of us are perfect. If you are perfect, then I know exactly where you need to start praying, because you're not. None of us are. Only one man lived perfect, and they crucified him. So we're not perfect, and we're not without fault. And so the messages that I'm given to preach are meant for you to look in your own life and apply to yourself. They're meant for me to look in my own life and apply to myself, and not to try and push them off on everybody else. If that's the attitude that you have toward church and toward being ministered to, then you're not benefiting from it, and you need to learn a different way. And that's blunt, but it's the truth. And I've been guilty of it myself. You know, I've sat in church services and listened to the pastor and looked around and been like, yep, that one and that one and that one over there. And the whole time, you know, the message is coming at me, and it's coming at me, and I'm not catching it. I'm not seeing where I need it, because I'm too worried about seeing where everybody else needs it. I'm too worried about being their judge and their nursemaid and trying to determine who they are. That's not what it's about. Let God deal with them. You need to get with God about you. So in John 8, verse 44, now the first one was from 1 John. This is back from the book of John. In 8:44, Jesus is talking to people, and he says, "For you are children of your father, the devil, and you love to do the evil things that he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Now I want you to understand who it is Jesus is talking to here. Jesus is talking to the religious elite. He's talking to everyone who's coming to see him. What he's basically saying is your human nature, your built-in human nature since man fell is sinful. You are born of this world, and the father of this world and lies and the broken nature is the devil. So what he's saying is you got to understand that it's in his nature to lie. It's also in yours. It is not apart from your character to be wrong and to be evil. And the people he's talking to in this particular moment are not lying to anyone themselves. What they're doing is refusing to accept Jesus, refusing to accept who he says he is and the message that he brings. And the point that he's making to them is you won't hear the truth because it's not comfortable, because it's not what you want it to be. And essentially he's telling them they're lying to themselves. And in lying to themselves, that disseminates to everyone else because they're not spreading the truth that he is spreading. And we have a tendency to do this as well. Now, most Christians these days accept Jesus for who he is and believe in that. But what we do is we will see things happen, and we will, without proper evidence, without proper information, we will apply a narrative to the things that are happening. I'm going to go ahead and get into it right now. There's all of the protests and riots and looting, and they're not the same. Protests is different from riots and looting. Protest is a legal right. Protest is a good thing when used properly. People are taking advantage of it and turning it into criminal acts and stuff like that. And that's not what I'm here to talk about, but when I say them all together like that, I'm not lumping them together. But all these protests and all the things going on started from people being upset and appalled about the death of George Floyd. And it shouldn't have happened, and it was wrong, and I'm not defending anybody in it. I'm not, and I don't really want to talk about it a whole lot. But what I want to talk about is this. We've all lied to ourselves. See, we took this situation that was filmed and was pretty clearly wrong. What was not clear in the situation, what is not represented thus far in the situation, is the racial dynamic. Yes, George Floyd was a black man and he was killed by a white cop, but nowhere in there do we see that white cop throwing racial slurs or telling him he's doing what he's doing because he's a black man. We don't know that he wouldn't have done the same thing to a white, Hispanic, Asian, or Martian suspect. We don't know that. We just decided that's what it is. And yes, racism does exist in our society, and particularly in our country. It is here. It is real, and we do need to deal with that. But we need to deal with it when it actually exists, and we need to stop applying narratives that we just assume to be true. Now, it may come out that it's true in this, and I've gone through this in one of the videos, so I don't want to get really bogged down in it. But it may come out to be true that racism played a factor in this. If that's the case, then we need to deal with that. But right now, we're all operating off of a lie, and that lie is allowing and is fueling criminal activity all over the country. Burning of buildings and homes, murdering people, and stealing and looting all these stores over a lie, over what is not yet truth. We're doing this stuff. And that has spilled over into social media. And that's where I really want to get to right now, because that's what I've been seeing, because I've been home. I haven't been out among people. I haven't been face to face with people. I've been seeing social media. I've been seeing who people are on Facebook and on Twitter. And we as Christians are prone to putting out a bad example face to face. I mean, I've worked with plenty of people claiming to be Christians who act nothing like what a Christian should act like. In person, face to face. I've seen it. It's real. But what we are in person, we are to the nth degree on social media, because what we will say to people face to face is far less outrageous than what we will say to a computer screen when we know somebody is, far enough away they can't punch us in the mouth. And who we are on social media really bears out the most raw, basic truth to who we are. And a lot of us aren't what we say we are. A lot of us go on social media, say we love God, and then post things about hating our brothers or anything hatred related. The whole outrage over this racial injustice, people are still not handling it right because they're still allowing that anger and that emotion to drive them, and they're in the middle of hating the hate, but it's still hate. It's still not an appropriate response because you can't kill hate with hate. But that's what I want to talk about. On social media, we say who we really are, and then we lie about who we want to be. We say, yeah, I'm Christian, but then we turn around and we say nasty things toward people and call them names and apply terms to them and labels to them that don't fit, or maybe they do fit but shouldn't be said, not in the way we're saying them. We're out there fighting this fight with dirty means, and it's not okay. We've got to learn love first, love always, and we've got to keep that at the core. We shouldn't say things to people not because they're close enough they can punch us in the mouth, but because we're supposed to love them in spite of their faults. God loves us in spite of ours. In James 2, verses 8 and 9, it says, "Yes, indeed it is good when you obey the royal law as found in scriptures. Love your neighbor as yourself. But if you favor some people over others, you are committing a sin. You are guilty of breaking the law." Pardon me, not the rules. What James is saying is this: if I love you and I love you, but I treat you a little better, that's wrong. What he's saying is if I love my white brother better than I love my black brother, then I'm wrong. I'm committing sin. I'm breaking the law. If I love my rich brother better than I love my poor brother because he can do more for me, then I'm wrong. I'm guilty. If I love my American brother more than I love my Irish brother or my Nigerian brother or my Taiwanese brother, if any of those takes a higher position than anybody else, then I'm wrong. And I'm guilty of being wrong. We can't do that. That's not what we're called to. That's not who we're meant to be. We are meant to be united. One family, period. Not one family, but you're kind of a stepchild over here somewhere. Or not one family, but you're that one cousin that nobody likes to talk about because we all have that cousin. But just one. Just love all. That's how God treated us. God doesn't love your neighbor more than he loves you. He doesn't love, he doesn't love, God is no respecter of person. We are all important to him. God's love for us and our equality in God's eyes is it's evident even from the beginning. Going back to Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. What it says here is, so God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Notice it doesn't say God created white people in his image. Matter of fact, if you look back through history, white people hadn't been around as long as a lot of other races have been. And, you know, if you haven't heard it yet, then I hate to burst your bubble, but Jesus wasn't white. He was Middle Eastern. He probably had a fairly darker complexion than, you know, everybody's got a darker complexion than I do. But, you know, he wasn't one of us. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people out there who don't want to accept that. But that's just facts. I mean, you just look back at the area that he lived in and the people of that time. You know, there's a good chance he was way darker than we are, and that some of us wouldn't accept him just based on that. But that in Genesis, it doesn't say God created white people in his image. It doesn't say he created rich people in his image or certain denominational people in his image. It doesn't even say he created righteous people in his image. Sinners are created in the image of God as well. Now, our nature, unfortunately, our nature does come from a broken place. It does come from an evil and sinful place. We've got to battle that as long as we live in this body. We've got to keep going back and forth with that because we're always going to be prone to the easy road, to the incorrect, just to the wrong side of things. That's our nature. But we are created in his image. And we have to see each other in his image. We have to see our Father in our brothers and sisters. We have to see that family resemblance, because when we can see that family resemblance, then we can love correctly. We can love completely. And until we can do that, we're not doing it right. And a lot of us out there, I know so many Christians, and I could go off and name them. I'm not going to, because that's not appropriate, because that wouldn't be me giving you the opportunity to apply it to yourself. But I could name so many who are exactly what I'm talking about, who I'm a Christian individual, and they go to work every day and they use the foulest language possible. And they talk about, I've literally had conversations with individuals who claim Christianity and then will turn around and tell me how, oh no, it's scientifically proven that blacks and Mexicans are not as smart as white people are. For real? Because I know you, and then I know people like, well, I don't know, but I know of people like, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. And intellectually, you're right. You two are not on the same level. And it ain't him who's fallen short. You know, I mean, it's just, I have heard this said by more than one person, and you cannot be Christian and hold those kind of ideals. You can't believe that stuff and then be a true Christian. I was going to say you can't call yourself a Christian, but clearly you can. I know a lot of people who do. I know a lot of people who call themselves Christian who don't believe in God, who don't believe in who Jesus is. I can't fathom, you know, the root of the word Christian is Christ. And if you don't believe in who Jesus Christ is, how can you call yourself, because well, I'm a good person, so I must be Christian. Because we as Christians have allowed the word and our lives to be diluted to the point that the world really can't tell the difference between us and them. And this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. We act like they do. We act like we don't know him. We get out there, and particularly on social media, but even in person, we act like there's no difference between us and them. And if you're not transformed, if you come to Jesus and you don't go through a transformation, you didn't really come to Jesus. It's that simple. If you're not a different person than you showed up as, then you didn't show up. And you need to try again. So now I'm going to go from the beginning back to the end. And I'm going to go to Revelation. Revelation 7:9 says, after this, and this is the Apostle John and his revelation, his seeing heaven and his vision that he wrote down. He says, after this I saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language, standing in front of the throne and before the Lamb. They were clothed in white robes and held palm branches in their hands. I'm going to go back and read that again. I want you to hear that. After this I saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language. John's looking into heaven, into his future. The Holy Spirit is showing him, is revealing to him what's to come. John sees that in the future, everyone is represented. That good news, the gospel, doesn't just mean that that we're brought near to God. It also means we're brought near to the people we once considered so different from ourselves. We can't segregate ourselves from anyone and expect that to be okay. That's not what God does. Even from sinners. God chases the sinners. He's happy that we're here. He's happy for those who choose him and become part of the family. And we get to spend eternity with him and celebrating with him. But right now, there's still work to do. And those of us who are his, that's great. And he loves us. And he's got us over here where we're safe. But the one who's not yet found, the one who has not yet accepted, he still chases. He still goes after. We can't even adjust our love for one another based on who's part of the family and who's not. We have to realize that everyone is meant to be. Everyone shares the bloodline. Everyone is part of the family. Some may choose not to be, but everyone was created as part of the family, and we have to love everyone accordingly. And we don't. We're failing. We're failing miserably. So I'm going to go back. 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? Matter of fact, I want to go a little earlier in that chapter. 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 and 8 says, Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone who knows love is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love. That means he who does not know love for anyone, he who does not know love for another person in his congregation, doesn't know God. He who does not know love for that guy who cut him off in traffic does not know God. He who does not know love for that cop that killed George Floyd does not know God. What he did was wrong. Absolutely. But he's still human. He's still meant to be part of the family. And while he needs to face justice here among people for what he did, would you really look in somebody's face and condemn them to hell? And tell them you're beyond hope and what I want for you is hell? I say if you really know what hell is, you couldn't do that. But if you can do that with even an idea of what hell is, then you don't know God either. You can call yourself Christian all day long, but if that's how you feel toward anybody, you missed the mark. You need to fix you. Right now, we are thriving on hate. We are thriving on anger. You look around our country, even a lot of those who are speaking against what's going on, even a lot of those who are speaking against the riots and the looting and the violence, are still doing so in a very hateful way. We're so quick to condemn without applying love and hope to the situation. So it doesn't really matter if you're pointed the right direction but using the wrong methods to get there. The ends don't justify the means. The means will change the end. And the end that a lot of us are headed toward, we don't want, because we're going wrong. We need to pray that we can learn to love first, and let all the rest of it be handled through love, not hate. We're never going to kill hate by employing hate. That's just not how it works. You can't defeat darkness with more darkness. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, we have to turn on the light. And the way we're reacting to things these days, there's no light. There's no light in us, in a lot of us. I love you guys, and I'm praying for you. I ask you to pray for me. And y'all have a blessed one. We'll see you next time.